now I've got all the slides on the side and then the cover slide as well.
That's correct. That is what you should see.
Okay. All right. Got it.
And we are live, so as people start to join, they will be able to hear us.
Good afternoon and welcome to the TFEA COVID-19 webinar, Beyond Sponsors, How Individual Donors Can Help Your Event During COVID-19. Today, our speaker is Elizabeth Grigsby. Elizabeth has been the Executive Director of the Lubbock Arts Alliance for the past 16 years. Under her leadership, annual attendance at the Lubbock Arts Festival has reached record levels to become the largest fine art, fine craft event in West Texas. She is responsible for one of the first distinguished cultural districts in the state and an award-winning art education program that serves foster children. Grigsby is a certified fundraising executive and currently serves in a leadership capacity for several organizations. It is a real pleasure for me to be able to introduce Elizabeth. Take it away.
Thank you, Kay. First, I would like to express my sincerest appreciation to Kay Wolf and Joe Vera for giving me this opportunity. I'm just thrilled to be here today to talk about the importance of individual donors and how they can help your festival or special event. Next slide. To get started, we need to start at the end, and I am a firm believer that everything should conclude with a happy ending. So here's mine. Next slide. I'm a newlywed. I've been married for 8 months, and I show you this picture because not only was it one of the best days of my life, but because the man I married, I met because of the annual Lubbock Arts Festival, my organization's marquee event. 17 years ago, he was working at the Civic Center, the venue for the Arts Festival, and I was introduced to him when I was planning my very first event. Fast forward a decade later, and we are married. Next slide. I also want to show you who was at our wedding. Both of my parents are deceased, and so everyone that you see in this picture, I know because of the Lubbock Arts Festival. They're artists, musicians, volunteers, board members, patrons, and they are all donors to the event. Some give $25 a year, some give $15,000 a year, but they all give. And along the way, they became my family. Next slide. So how did we get to a happy ending? We had a crisis, of course. Remember, to have triumph, you must have tragedy. There must be conflict to have resolution, and you must be down before you can get back up and ascend to glory. And our crises have been the weather, the Great Recession, and COVID-19. Next slide. For 2 years in a row, 2 years, the event was taken out by windstorms. Now, if you know anything about Lubbock, you know that the weather in the spring is highly unpredictable and can turn on a dime, and that is exactly what happened. Wind gusts collapsed tents, blew over artwork, and closed the show. And then imagine picking up your local newspaper and reading the article, "Festival Returns Dismal. Poor turnout puts future in question." Talk about something else that sucks the wind and life out of an event. But the leadership of the Arts Alliance picked themselves up, dusted themselves off, both literally and figuratively, moved the event indoors to the Civic Center, and started again. Now, I show you this slide because I want for us to remember that crisis doesn't necessarily come in the form of just a national recession or a global pandemic. It can be a whole host of things that can bring your event down. Weather, losing your location, lack of funding, and the list goes on and on. Next slide. It was 2 years after moving the Arts Festival back to the Civic Center that I was hired as the executive director. So I had never been in charge of an event of this size, so I started looking around for some resources to help us get up and get going. And that's when I found TFEA, and I went to my first conference. At the time, my organization was so broke that the only reason I got to go was because the Texas Commission on the Arts at that time provided reimbursement for up to half of the conference cost. And one of the most important things I learned at that conference was about sponsorships. And I took that knowledge home, and by the following spring, I had my first title sponsor of the Arts Festival. And then I promptly lost it the next year because of the Great Recession. I knew it would be difficult, if not impossible, to find another title sponsor because of the economy and the tight time frame. I needed help, and I needed it now. Next slide. So I did as I always do and went looking for answers, and I found it in an email from our local volunteer center who was offering a workshop on fundraising. Not to say that I believe in fate, but I think that everyone is given what they need when they need it, and this is what I needed. I loaded myself up, and I met the woman on the screen, Carole Rylander. Now, you have to understand that Carole is all of 5 foot tall with heels, soft-spoken and very unassuming. You would never guess that she is a powerhouse when it comes to fundraising, and she has raised millions and millions of dollars. So after introductions, we were asked why we were attending the workshop and what we hoped to get out of it. And I told her that I had lost the title sponsor for my marquee event, and I just didn't know if the event could go on without it. And then she said something to me that I will never forget. She said, "You already know the people who will help you. They are just waiting to be asked." Next slide. Next slide. She went on to explain that sponsorships themselves as a fundraising source are very challenging. Specifically, there's a great deal of competition for the business's dollar. And I think we all know this. Just ask any supermarket or bank in your town. They're constantly being solicited for money from Little Leagues, PTAs, United Ways, and many other organizations. And as we all know, there are only so many dollars and so much money to go around. Another challenge of sponsorships is the rapidly changing environment. Businesses merge, relocate, and close all the time, which will probably be more prevalent because of COVID-19. And even more discouraging is the constant rotating door of decision makers. Too many times, the decision maker I had the relationship got promoted, left the department, or quit, and I had to start again with someone new who may or may not have known anything about our festival. Now, if you attended the IFEA webinar on sponsorships, you remember that their experts said that corporate sponsorships will change their giving priorities to help with immediate needs such as healthcare and human services, including rent, food, and utilities in response to COVID-19. Now, this is only natural, and it's what we saw the same thing happen when tremendous giving to the Red Cross in response to September 11th. When there is a crisis, people give to help address the most immediate need. And the other challenge with sponsorships, according to the IFE expert, is that we can expect a 25 to 50% decrease in sponsorship revenue over the next few years. The reasons why is because we're very much in uncharted territory. We don't know how COVID-19's long-term effect on the economy will impact and how long it will last, and we won't know that for quite a while. People are unsure and uncertain, and most of us realize that back to normal may not happen anytime soon, if at all. Next slide. But there is an alternative source of funding, a source of funding that is not as highly sought after and much more lucrative, and it can help your event or festival. And that source of funding is the individual donor. Next slide. Would it surprise you to know that 70% of all charitable giving in the United States comes from individuals? This number encompasses a donation to their church, a gift to their alma mater, and money given in support of their favorite cause like the food bank or your festival or event. Even more surprising is that an additional 9% of the giving total comes from bequests, which are gifts from individuals upon their death. They're sometimes called legacy or planned giving. So in total, you're looking at 79% of all charitable giving coming from individuals compared to 16% from foundations, which give out grants, and 5% for corporations in the form of sponsorships. Next slide. Now, and individual donors have a lot going for them. They gave $287 billion in 2018, more than any other group. And they allow you to diversify your income streams. And when I say this, I mean that I got in trouble with the 2009 Lubbock Arts Festival because I put all of my eggs in one basket. I was so focused on retaining and expanding our sponsorship program that I didn't look to any other ways to bring in sources of revenue, like increasing my ticket sales, having more booth rentals, applying for grants, or soliciting individual donations, and it could have very easily become a fatal mistake. You need to spread out the risk among all revenue sources so you can absorb any losses from other sources and hopefully continue on. As we said before, individual donors, there isn't just as much competition because not everyone thinks about asking an individual for a financial gift. There's also a quick turnaround. Usually an individual donor will make a decision about a donation within 2 to 3 weeks instead of the months it sometimes takes with sponsorships. Individual donors also have potential for growth in giving. If a donor is cultivated correctly, their level of giving should increase over time. You can go from a $100 annual donation to a $10,000 major gift to a $100,000 bequest. Individual donors are also highly loyal. One of the best things about them is they will give most of the time, and they will give year after year, no matter what the economy is doing. Now, they may reduce the amount of money they give you because they may not have as much as in the past, but they will continue to give because your festival or your event is important to them. And the number one reason why people don't give is because they've never been asked. So you just need to ask. I guarantee you this is much easier than putting on a fundraiser and much more cost effective. Next slide. So this is the growth in individual donations over the past 16 years of my tenure. In 2004, for some odd reason, we collected $2,780 from people just mailing in money. And I wasn't smart enough to see the potential until the crisis of the Great Recession hit in 2009. In response to the Great Recession of 2009, we sent out a letter to our mailing list asking for donations to overcome losing our title sponsor. We collected $28,890, which was more than the original sponsorship. Then over the past decade, we have methodically followed the donor cycle, and this year during COVID-19, we collected $132,100. And now I'm going to show you how to do the same thing for your festival or your event. Next slide. So let's start by getting some terminology straight. A donation is a financial gift given in support of your organization without expectation of anything in return. Think about a cash gift you give into your church, your local food bank, or your animal shelter. You gave it because you cared about the organization and you want them to be able to do their work. Now you compare that with a sponsorship, which is a financial transaction where money is given for advertising opportunities. The company is buying the opportunity to have a presence at your event, to distribute their collateral to your patrons, and to have their logo on your print materials, signage, and advertising. Next slide. Before we start to dive deeper, there are some assumptions that we are going to make sure that you're ready to receive individual donations. First, your organization or event is a nonprofit entity as determined by 501c3 status from the IRS. You need to have this for donations to your organization to be tax deductible to the donor. Now, contrary to popular belief, the main reason people give is not for a tax break. They give because they want to help you and your organization. And I think more than anything, having the nonprofit status makes your organization look legitimate for receiving gifts, and it lets the donor know that there's some sort of accountability because you have to file tax returns which are open to public inspection. Now, if you aren't a 501c3, you could form one that specifically exists for the purpose of raising money for your event or festival. Examples that come to mind, especially if you work for a city, include the Friends of the Library or the Friends of the Animal Shelter. You could actually have a Friends of your festival. Now, if it isn't an option to form a 501c3 because there is a cost involved, you can ask another nonprofit that already has their tax status to receive donations on your behalf and serve as an umbrella. We did this recently for a local neighborhood association. They wanted to put a piece of public art in their park, but they had no way of receiving donations. So what we did is we received the donations on their behalf, and then we gave them those monies to be used for that purpose. We took care of acknowledging and reporting the donations for the neighborhood association, and they raised their money from their patrons, and they got their piece of art in the park. Other things you need to think about. Do you have a great event that's well regarded? People like to be a part of something that is already successful and that they love to attend and look forward to attend every year. It's much more challenging to ask people for money if your event is on life support. You don't ever want people to think that they're throwing good money after bad and that their investment won't make any difference in your event. If you want to ask for funding to start a new event, we're going to assume that your organization and its leadership are well regarded in the community. Once again, if your organization has a reputation of not following through or doing a subpar job, it's going to be harder to get people to give you their money. Now, you've got to be willing to invest time and money to make this happen. And I'm not talking about thousands and thousands of dollars. I'm just saying that you're going to have some expenses like labor to prepare a mailing list, paper, envelopes, and postage. We recently did a solicitation for my husband's museum, and we invested $200 for hard costs like postage and envelopes. The letter generated $10,000. Now, not to say that's always the case, but the old adage is true. You have to spend money to make money. And the final assumption that we will make is that you're willing to follow through on the process. And to be honest with you, this is where I see most people fail. They'll get a donation and then that's it. They won't write a thank you letter, they won't continue to work on the relationship with the donor, and they won't ask again. They decide that they don't have enough time and they will just stop doing it. And to be honest, I really don't get it. Are you really too busy for people to give you money? And it's really discouraging because I know it'll work if people will just do it and will faithfully try it for a period of time. Next slide. So now we're going to talk about what I call the circle of life. And at this point, please cue the theme from The Lion King. Seriously, it's actually the donor cycle, and it's a process an organization should follow to have an individual donor program. It's comprised of 4 steps: identification, cultivation, solicitation, and stewardship. Next slide. Now, the first step, identification. Here's the thing. You already know the individuals who could be your donors. They're folks that have attended your event. They're volunteers that have worked for you year after year. It's your board of directors or your advisory board, current or past. It's the vendors who you spend large amounts of money with to put on your event. Basically, anyone who knows you and knows your event is a candidate to give you a gift. And you should already have their contact information on your phone, on a mailing list, on an email list, on ticket purchases, and social media. Next slide. Now, the second step in the donor cycle is cultivation. And these folks should already, if you're going to ask them for a financial gift, they should have already been engaged with your event in some way. They've attended the event, they've seen what you do, they come back year after year, so there is a familiarity with you and your organization. Now, you need to continue to engage them with your event, so when you make that ask, they know exactly who you are and where you are from. And so some of the things that you can do to start this cultivation process is make sure that these people that you have identified as potential donors are receiving your e-newsletters, that they are receiving your social media. And you can do this through sending information through your e-newsletters, like follow us on Facebook or Instagram. If you have a mailing list and you regularly send out printed materials, be sure that those people are on your mailing list. And of course, any sort of public relations that will make your organization show up on your news feed you want to do. So if it's a newspaper article, if it's a radio interview, if it's a profile in a magazine, be sure to take advantage of those opportunities because it has a long-reaching effect even if you're not aware of it. Next slide. And now I want to show you who I think does a great job of cultivating an audience as well as potential donors, the State Fair of Texas. Now, let me tell you, I love, and I mean love, getting emails from them. They're fun and they're informative and they make me want to go to the event. Yes, I want to know how to make corny dogs. Yes, I want to know what new fried food offerings are debuting this year. Yes, I want to know about Big Tex and how he's doing. Yes, I want to know about the millions you give to Texas students. Frankly, I just want more. And I think that we should all strive to communicate with our audience and our donors like the State Fair of Texas. Next slide. Now, step 3 in the donor cycle is solicitation. When you first get started, the easiest way to ask for a gift is usually direct mail, email, or social media, especially if you don't know that donor. I would suggest that you start with direct mail because you'll probably get a better response. And the main reason why, in my opinion, is that you're putting something tangible in front of the donor. I think email and social media both have their places, but I think it's more challenging to get in front of the donor with the ask. I mean, how many emails do you get every day? It's hard to get someone to stop and read your content unless they're used to getting it from you. And I think the challenge with social media is that only some of your followers will see your information, not all of them, which means that you're missing out on potential donors. So I would suggest doing a great direct mail piece and then supplementing with subsequent email and social media asks. Next slide. So here's a letter that we recently sent out because of COVID-19. We asked those who had bought tickets to allow us to keep their ticket sales as a donation. Notice we addressed the letter to the person using the information that we had from our ticketing software. I also wrote a note so the ticket holder would know that I took the time to acknowledge them as a person. Now, you don't have to do this, but if you do know that person, I would highly encourage you to do so. The first paragraph of the letter lays it all out. It says, for the first time in 42-year history, the Lubbock Arts Festival was canceled because of COVID-19. It was totally unexpected, and it happened 1 month before the event was to open its doors. The second paragraph explains that we had already spent $130,000 to make the event happen, that we weren't going to be able to recover. The third paragraph actually makes the ask. We asked them to let us keep the proceeds of their ticket sales, and we explained how it would help us. Specifically, we said it'll help ease the financial burden on our nonprofit organization. It'll help us get to the 2021 Arts Festival, and it will allow us to keep providing art education classes to at-risk children. The fourth paragraph tells them that they don't have to do anything if they will allow us to keep their ticket sales as a donation, or if they need to request a refund, it tells them how to get into contact with us and provides a deadline. And then in the last paragraph, thanks them for their time and consideration, and I sign each of the letters. Next slide. So remember, when you are asking for someone for a donation, you need to personalize the letter. Be sure to use their name and spell it correctly. You need to write a personal note on the letter, especially if you know them, and sign the letter yourself. Show these people that you care enough not just to mass produce something, that you actually took the time to sign your own name. And if it's a new request for funding, you need to include a response form that will capture the name, address, telephone number, email, amount of donation, and method of payment. Next slide. Other things you really need to consider is that you need to make sure that you have a return envelope in with your letter. Now, the envelope does not have to be stamped, but you need to make it easy on the donor to where all they have to do is fill out the response card, write the check, drop it in an envelope that's already been addressed, put a stamp on it, and mail it. You also need to, in your letter, include a web address where you can accept donations online. People are becoming much more comfortable with giving online, mainly because of online shopping. And so you need to provide that as a venue for them in case they don't even carry checks anymore, which some folks aren't. You need to give them a deadline to create a sense of urgency. You want them to know that you need the help and that you are on the top of their priority list. Now, if you send out a letter and you don't hear back in about 2 weeks from the donor, I would suggest you send another letter, a shorter letter as a follow-up, which says, we sent you a letter a few weeks ago. We haven't heard back from you. We're making progress towards resolving this situation, but we could still really use your help. Please consider giving us a donation if you can, and include that return envelope and the response card. Next slide. So here's a really good example I recently received. It's from St. Benedict's Chapel, which is a soup kitchen here in Lubbock. Now, I've never given to St. Benedict's and I've never attended any of their functions, but I do know their name and what they do because I've heard about them at church as one of our ministries. So basically, this is a cold call letter. I have no previous association with this group. Now, although they didn't personalize the letter, I know how they identified me as a potential donor. If you look at the bottom, it has a list of partner church organizations, and my church, Holy Spirit Catholic Church, is on the list. So if I had to guess, the church probably sent their membership directly to the print shop, and that's why I got the letter. Now, if we look at the letter itself, they did a great job of explaining what they do and how the current situation with COVID-19 is affecting the services they provide. And then they make the ask by telling you that they need help, and then they provide you a list of the different options and the different ways that you can help. Notice they include a way to give a donation online and by mail. They also have a small response card to capture my information and a return envelope so that all I have to do is put the response card and the check in the envelope, put a stamp on it, and drop it in the mail. They've made it very straightforward and very easy for me to give. Next slide. Now, the fourth step in the donor cycle is stewardship. If you can, you need to acknowledge a gift within 24 hours. So if you receive a check in the mail that is a donation, within 24 hours, you need to write them a thank you note. And the reason why, and I think it happens all too often, is that the person or the organization receiving the donation will wait weeks and months and may never acknowledge the donation. And that's really not fair to the donor. The donor needs to know that they received your gift and that the gift is going to be used in the purpose it's intended, which is to carry on your work. Now, the first thing you should do is generate an official letter for tax purposes. And that letter has got to say at the bottom, after you thank them, please let this letter serve as an official receipt for your gift in accordance with Section 104 of the Internal Revenue Service Code. No goods or services were given in exchange for this gift, and then it has the check number, the amount, and the date it was received. Now, if you get a gift online, instead of saying check, it should say online, and then you're going to put in the amount you received and the date that you received it. Next slide. Now, one of the most important things that you can do during this stewardship phase to ensure that your donor is happy and will continue to give to you is to say thank you 7 times and in 7 different ways. This is a good rule of thumb. So the 7 different ways that you can thank someone for giving you a gift is with the official letter, and then you can do a handwritten note. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. This just says, thank you for giving to us. You can have a board or committee member actually call the donor and say, thank you for your gift. We actually have the script that we give to our board members, and the script tells the board member to say thank you, to remind that person what the donation will be used for, and to invite them to our next event, and to invite them to join us on social media or sign up for our e-newsletter. So very important, and it's something that most people don't do. You need to recognize them in an e-newsletter or social media if they will allow you to, and you need to make sure that you're having that constant contact with them receiving your emails and your mailing list. You can also do a small token of appreciation that doesn't cost you any money, perhaps a free ticket to your event, or another small special perk like a VIP parking pass, just to let them know that they're appreciated. Next slide. So what my organization did for stewardship during COVID-19 is after everything happened and there was a shelter in place situation going on, is we sent a card to all of our donors and sponsors. And the front of the card is actually by one of our art education students. And the message inside said, thank you. Sunnier days are ahead, and you are our helper, and we're thankful for each and every one of you. The other thing that we did is we had an artist come to us and ask us how they could help us around this time. And we knew that a lot of people didn't have access to face coverings, and that face coverings were being encouraged when you were going out and going to the grocery store and that sort of thing. And so what we did is we gathered up a group of artists. We got material donated, we got screen printing donated, we got sewing donated, and we sent all of our donors and sponsors a face covering because we wanted them to know that they were important to us, and if they didn't have access to something like this, we wanted to make it available through the creativity of the arts. And the response we got back was absolutely incredible. And this small token of appreciation went so far with all of our donors. Okay, next slide. So the final thoughts about individual donations. First of all, it takes time. What you have seen has actually been a progression of an effort of about 10 years. And don't get discouraged if the first time you do a mail out, you don't get as much of a response as what you think. Research shows us that you should expect about a 20% return on direct mail. So if you mail out 100 letters, 20 people will respond. Now, of those 20 people, 90% of your money will come from 10% of your donors. So 100 letters, 20 responses, and 2 of those people will give you 90% of your money. And I've seen it time and time again. You'll get a group of small gifts, and then you will just get 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 huge gifts that really make the difference. And then if you invest enough time and effort, what can happen is that these people can give to you in different ways. For example, a major gift. Saying that your festival needed a new stage, and that new stage was going to cost $25,000. Wouldn't it be nice to pick up the phone, talk to someone who's given to you for a period of time and say, hey, our festival absolutely has to have a new stage. It's not safe for the performers. It's too small. We can't do what we need to do. Would you consider a gift of $25,000 so we can have this piece of equipment that will last us for quite a bit of time, that will really add to the majesty of the event, that will, just help us make sure that we're doing things right and taking care of everyone. And so that's a possibility that starts out with just an individual gift. And then the other thing is a legacy or plan gift. And so this is kind of the ultimate gift somebody can give you, and it's actually in their will. And it's pretty simple. All they have to do is include in their will a statement that says that they want X amount of dollars or a certain percentage of their estate to go to you. So, for example, I could say, I want to give 10% of my estate to the Lubbock Arts Alliance. Or I could say, I want to give $10,000 of my estate to the Lubbock Arts Alliance. So the potential is there for increase over amount of years. So, all right, next slide. So I'm going to end with our COVID-19 success story. So we paid off the $130,000 in debt for the 2020 Lubbock Arts Festival. We're going into 2021 debt-free. We received no requests for ticket refunds for that letter that I showed you. They were all donations. And then the other amazing thing that happened is that we received an additional $52,862 in unsolicited donation to be used for operational costs not associated with the Arts Festival. And the way that one of these donations happened is I was talking to a long-time donor and friend named Alan, and he has given $500 like clockwork for years. And he was supposed to be our MC for our big opening night celebration, and I called to cancel, and we got to visiting, and he said, "What are you going to do, Elizabeth?" And I said, "Alan, I really don't know." And he said, "Well, as someone in the insurance business, I really feel that you need to wait until next year to have the event. Don't try to reschedule." And I said, "Well, Alan, I may not have a choice. Financially, we may not be able to make it till next year." And he says, "I'm going to do something to help you." And I said, "Okay, well, anything you can do to help us, I'll greatly appreciate." And the next week, I got a check in the mail for $20,000, and it wasn't the only one. So I think that goes to speak as to the power of how when people know you and love you and know you and love your event, that they want to help. And you just have to ask them for the help. So next slide. So all of this that I have actually talked about, just for your reference, you can actually read about it in IFEA's IE magazine. It's a 3-page article with the same title as this webinar. It was written by me and is included in the summer issue. So if you want to check it out, you can go to the IFEA website and download it. Next slide. So here is my contact information, and you are welcome to reach out to me anytime after the webinar. I'd be happy to help you any way that I can. I have learned so much from TFEA, and if there's anything that I can share with any of my colleagues or with the organization, I certainly want to do that. All right, next slide. So I guess now we're going to go ahead and open it up to questions, and I want to thank you in advance for taking time to listen to me this afternoon, and I sincerely hope that you were able to get something out of it. So All right. Do you want to try some questions? Anybody?
All right. Well, thank you, Elizabeth. That was a fantastic presentation. I know I was taking a lot of notes and really got a lot of great information from it. I'm so glad to hear you were able to turn this crazy year into a success story for the event, just because I know it's been a struggle for so many people. So thank you for your insight.
My pleasure. Thank you for giving me an opportunity, and thank you for all of your technical assistance today.
Absolutely, of course.
It's good to have a technology pro on the team.
So with that, I'll go ahead and say I'll open it up. If anybody has questions for Elizabeth, there are a few different ways that you can ask. In either the top or the bottom of your screen, you will see an option for questions and answers where you can type in a question. You can also, if you see the option to raise your hand and you would like to ask it over talking, we can open up your microphone and let you ask it directly. And then lastly, there is a chat window where you can type it into the chat. So we are able to see there as well. And I've seen a few messages come in. Steve Rosenauer from St. Mary's Oyster Bake says, great information. Thank you so much. Congrats on your wedding. Oh, that was great.
Well, thank you. Yes, we are hoping to make it to our 1-year anniversary. The 3 months with the shelter in place order were a little challenging, but yeah.
And seeing some other thank yous coming in and other people saying great information, which we really appreciate. Joyce Miller, great presentation, Elizabeth.
How are things in Midland? I hope they're good. I hope they're good.
Exactly.
So.
Kay, do you have any announcements for the group? And if you have a question, feel free to type it in or raise your hand while Kay goes through any other announcements that we might have.
I have a couple. On Monday at 10 a.m. It was in the newsletter that went out yesterday. There will be a Zoom chat call for anybody that is entering marketing awards that has questions or wants to know what's new this year for some of the rules. We'll do that. Just please go online and get the information and call in. The other thing is next Thursday, our call will be at 10 a.m. It's going to be the ABCs of coping with COVID-19. We have a licensed therapist that's going to talk about all the issues that we've all felt and will probably continue to feel for a while. Just remember, it is a change. When the invite comes out tomorrow, there is a change from the 2:30 to 10 a.m. And I think there's a couple of questions.
Yeah, we did have a question come in for you, Elizabeth. So Mike Baxter asked, this is, of course, focused on the individual donor, but wanted to know, are you seeing any corporate sponsorships coming through right now?
Actually, yes. And so what we tried to do when I talked about diversifying your income streams and not being dependent upon one stream to the point where if it goes away, you have a major problem. And so we spread everything across, like we have earned income, which is our admissions and ticket sales. And then we have grants and individual donations. And then we also have sponsorships. And so we do collect sponsorships for our event. And what ended up happening this year is the first call that I made when I knew we had to cancel the event was to our sponsors, particularly our title sponsor, and I let them know what was going to happen, that the city council had put a prohibition against mass gatherings of more than 200 people in place, and we were going to have to cancel the event, which was, it was hard. And I had to say that to our corporate donors, knowing that there was no active cases of COVID-19 in our community at that time. And so when I called my first sponsor and I talked to them all, before we even did the announcement that we were going to cancel the event. And I explained the situation that although it wasn't in our community right now, we need to do as the government has instructed us. And let's talk about what you would like to do with your sponsorship. Do you want a refund? Can I carry it forward to the next year? And what ended up happening is I had several who said to me, just keep it. Keep our sponsorship this year, even though you're not having the event, and I'm going to go ahead and commit to next year. And so I had several that did that, and I also had a conversation, and I converted an in-kind donation of food into cash. And so instead of 10,000 in kind and 5,000 cash, they did 15 cash because we really needed the money, and they allowed us to keep that this year. So I say all of that to say we did present. Corporate sponsors are important to us. They are a big part of our revenue. And we gave them the option of what they wanted to do this year. And we had several that said, keep the money. And we're actually carrying forward about $100,000 in sponsorships for next year. So
that's incredible. I feel like that has got to be a testament to your relationship with those sponsors, because they're clearly getting something beyond just the advertisement that they get at the event. They're getting something beyond that.
Well, I think the thing about it, and this is what whenever I do fund development, it costs you at least 4 times more to acquire a new donor or sponsor than it does to maintain the ones that you have. And so retention is just critically important. And so I really focus on doing the absolute best that I can with my sponsors and my donors so they continue to give year after year and, continue to increase their giving. And, and we try to be good partners. For example, one of our corporate gifts, the Texas Tech Health Sciences Center and Covenant Children's, we put together 100 art kits that we took to the frontline responders who were working with the pediatric patients. And it was something small. It was supplies we had left over from the arts festival. And so it was very much, I view sponsorships as a two-way street, and I want them to know that we're there for them too. And so we distributed over 100 art kits to that group. And so, whether an individual donation or a sponsorship, it's relationship-based.
That's great. Another question came in. This one is from Tammy Warford, and she was asking, are you currently actively seeking any corporate sponsors?
So the answer right now is no, and I'm going to tell you why. We just recently got everything wrapped up from this year's event. And I think that timing is particularly important with sponsorships, and I'm kind of waiting to see how everything shakes out before I feel comfortable going in and having some conversations, because obviously some businesses are doing very, very well during COVID-19, and some are not doing well at all. And it's businesses that I really never thought about. For example, we have a sponsor who does wedding gifts, and it's this really cool process of making glass through a unity ceremony and that sort of thing. And his business has dropped to nothing because weddings are being canceled. And so I think there's a lot of nuances that I'm not familiar with, particularly in certain industries. And so, I think the timing of the ask has to be right and be appropriate. And certainly you don't want to ask if it's not a good time for that person. So
yeah, I think that's a great point.
Yeah. So.
All right. Well, I don't see any other questions on the board, but that was a fantastic presentation. It had a ton of great information for everyone, so I really appreciate it.
Well, can I say one last thing? Just try individual donors. Just give it a try, because I know our industry is so focused on sponsorships. it's worth a try, I promise you. And it's a little bit of work, but I mean, I'm telling you, it has changed our organization, and I truly feel that it could do it for yours if you give it a try. So.
Awesome. Kay, anything else from you?
No, I think that this has been a great session, and I'm going to be calling you, Elizabeth.
Anytime. I love to hear from you. You know, okay, so I have to tell you, everything I know about how to put on an awesome event, I learned from Kay Wolf. And I can remember, no, this is no lie. I can remember it was either the first or second conference, and, you know, and her reputation precedes itself, right? It's like, ooh, Kay's in the room. And so, and it was just this great presentation about how, you know, to have a successful event, you need to have a theme, and you need to have a grand entrance so people know that you have arrived, and, you know, you need to decorate the space, and you need to have a wow. And I mean, and it's literally transformed our event, you know, and it's because of Kay, and I'm just so thankful every day for her and for TFEA and everything that they do. So.
Awesome. As far as the presentation, are you able to, we can put it up on the website if you're okay with us sharing it on the website, or otherwise would you rather email it to folks?
You know, whatever's easier.
We'll probably put it up on the website if that's okay with you. So that answers somebody asked if they can get a copy of the presentation. So Shanna,
sure.
we'll put it up on the website on there's a page for if you've missed past presentations. There's a link to view the video and also download the presentation. If we've got the PDF, we can do that. So we will do that.
All right. Sounds great.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. And y'all have a great afternoon.
My pleasure. All right. Sounds good.
Bye-bye.
And thank you, Jessica, for the help today.
Always, always, always. No problem at all. Thanks. Bye-bye.